Good afternoon and welcome. This is Spotlight Africa and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. I am Uyai Imam. Today on Spotlight Africa, Madagascar military declares takeover following president's impeachment. Clashes erupt in Douala following opposition victory claim in Cameroon election. Clashes break out in southern Tunisia as protest over pollution turns violent. Spain's radically different approach to African migration. Plus, Sudan's oil production dropped after South Sudan's cessation. These stories are all just ahead on Spotlight Africa. Stay with us. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. We begin Spotlight Africa from Madagascar, where in a dramatic escalation of Madagascar's political crisis, Colonel Michael Radadrina of an elite military unit has announced that the armed forces are taking control of the country. The statement followed a parliamentary vote to impeach President Andry Rajoelina, who has reportedly fled the country amid a growing rebellion within the military. Despite the takeover, Radadrina confirmed that the National Assembly would continue its functions. He outlined a new transitional structure, which includes a joint presidency, a functioning government, and judicial reform led by the Supreme Constitutional Court. The power shift follows weeks of mass anti-government protests, largely driven by Gen Z demonstrators demanding change. In a related development, the African Union announced Wednesday that it had secessed Madagascar from its bodies with immediate effect until constitutional order is restored after a coup that ousted President Andry Rajoelina. The group previously suspended several other member states after military coups, including Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea. The uprising resulted in a military-backed coup that brought Rajoelina to power as the transitional leader of his Indian Ocean country at the age of just 34. On Tuesday, the same military unit that aided Rajoelina's rise declared it was taking power in Madagascar and ousting him as president following weeks of youth-led protest, this time against Rajoelina and his government. About 75% of the country's 30 million people are affected by poverty, according to the World Bank, with lack of access to higher education, government corruption, and the cost of living among the issues dominating the recent protests. Meanwhile, Radadrina will be sworn in as president of Madagascar during a solemn hearing of the High Constitutional Court on the 17th of October. The country's military ruler said in a statement published on social media by a state television station. In a rather sad development, former Kenyan Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who had been undergoing treatment in Koshi, has passed away due to cardiac arrest. Odinga collapsed during a morning walk within the premises of the Ayurvedic facility and was rushed to Davametha Hospital in Kothalukam, where he was pronounced dead. The 80-year-old Odinga is a prominent Kenyan politician who served as the country's prime minister from 2008 to 2018. Meanwhile, Kenyan President William Ruto has announced 7 days of national mourning and a state funeral for opposition leader Raila Odinga, who died on Wednesday. Ruto described him as Kenya's foremost statesman and one of Africa's greatest sons, a giant of democracy, a fearless freedom fighter, and a tireless warrior of good governance. Ruto said he would postpone all his public engagements in the coming days as a mark of respect. In a related development, the remains of Raila Odinga, the former Prime Minister of Kenya, have arrived in Nairobi from India. The aircraft transporting his body landed at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport at approximately 9:30 a.m. Raila Odinga, who passed away on October 15, 2025 in India, is set to receive a state funeral. His final resting place will be at his home in Bondo on Sunday. Family members and officials convened in India late Wednesday to pay their final tribute to Raila Odinga, who succumbed to a heart attack at the age of 80. Raila Odinga, a towering figure in Kenyan politics, served as Prime Minister from 2008 to 2013 and played a pivotal role in championing multi-party democracy in his country in the 1990s after multiple spells in detention without trial. Odinga, who ran unsuccessfully for the presidency 5 times, was a leader both inside and outside government, alternately holding ministerial posts and acting as an opposition figurehead for decades. President William Ruto announced a 7-day mourning period during which national flags will be flown at half-mast, describing Odinga's passing as an immense and immeasurable loss and confirming that he would receive a state funeral. Away from that, police clashed with protesters in Douala, the economic hub of Cameroon, after opposition candidate Issa Chiroma Bakari claimed victory in the October 12 presidential election. A heavy security presence could be seen in the city after the unrest, and spent tear gas canisters littered the ground. The independent body in charge of overseeing the poll, along with the Constitutional Court, has not yet announced any results, with an official outcome not expected by October 26 at the latest. Chiroma declared himself the winner in a video statement on Facebook, saying the victory is clear and must be respected, adding that he would share a detailed report of the vote by region in the coming days. Analysts had predicted a victory for Paul Biya, at 92, the oldest president in the world, as the opposition remained divided and his strongest rival was barred from running in August. 11 opposition candidates were on the ballot for the October 12 election. Chiroma, who is in his late 70s, was a government spokesperson and Minister of Employment under Biya, but quit the government last year to launch his presidential run. In separate developments, Spain is kicking against the prevailing political mood among Western nations when it comes to migration and policies regarding the African continent. At a time when the US, the UK, France and Germany are all cutting back their development aid budgets, Madrid remains committed to continued expansion, albeit from a lower starting point. This week, the Spanish capital has been hosting an African Union-backed World Conference on People of African Descent. Afro Madrid 2025 will discuss restorative justice and the creation of a new development fund. It is just the latest sign of how Spain's socialist-led government is seeking to deepen and diversify its engagement with the continent and near neighbor that lies just a few kilometers to the south across the Strait of Gibraltar. In July, Foreign Minister José Manuel Albares launched a new advisory council of prominent intellectual, diplomatic and cultural figures, more than half of them African, to monitor the delivery of the detailed Spain-Africa strategy that his government published at the end of last year. New embassies south of the Sahara and partnerships in business and education are planned. War crimes alerts as food runs out in besieged Sudan city. Stay tuned for details of this and more in a moment.
Broadening your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the dynamics of the past, present, and future innovations, inventions, politics, and governance are respected. We are Spectrum Television, and broadening your horizon is our obsession. Risk on your decoder now to connect Spectrum Television on the frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. That is frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. Polarization horizontal, and join our online community at spectrumtvlive.ng. For further inquiries, please call 0704 158 5642 or 0704 541 7707. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. Still bringing you stories on Spotlight Africa. In Tunisia, clashes broke out in the southern city of Gabes on Wednesday during a rally by protesters denouncing decades of pollution and environmental neglect. The demonstrators had marched onto a phosphate processing plant of the Group B Shumanik Tunisian when police fired tear gas to disperse them. A number of people were injured in the clashes. Reports said the protests were triggered by a recent gas leak that sent dozens to the hospital with respiratory issues, including children. While the incident was contained, it has, revived deep anger over long-standing health and environmental impact tied to the phosphate industry. Groupe Chuminique Tunisian, a state-owned company, plays a central role in Tunisia's economy by supplying fertilizer to markets across Europe and Asia. But in Gabes, where the plant operates near residential areas, locals have long reported elevated cancer rates, polluted air and water, and damage to marine life. Meanwhile, the 2017 government pledge to relocate the facility remains unfulfilled. Away from that, Sudan's finance minister on Wednesday said his country's oil production dropped from 500,000 barrels a day to less than 30,000 after South Sudan gained independence from Sudan in 2011 following a long conflict. Gabriel Ibrahim spoke at the Russian Energy Week Forum in Moscow. The event brought together officials from 84 countries to discuss energy issues. The minister said production could go up to 180,000 barrels a day if his country works with partners who have the technology. Sudan's crude oil export fell by 84% between the year 2000 and 2023, a trend also influenced by South Sudan's cessation, according to the International Energy Agency. But South Sudan's independence also made the new nation reliant on Sudan to transport its own oil to the international market. Sudan's current civil war has threatened its smaller neighbors' oil revenues. The two countries signed last week a new agreement to protect critical oil facilities, including pipelines transporting South Sudan's oil to Port Sudan on the Red Sea. Lastly, today on Spotlight Africa, satellite images show how Sudan's paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF) is flouting international law by intentionally targeting civilians in the besieged city of El Fasher. Actions that should be considered war crimes, a research team from Yale University says. According to reports, people are now completely trapped with no hope of escape as the RSF recently completed a 57-kilometer but 35-mile earthen wall around the city. Desperate residents in the army's last stronghold in Darfur say food has run out. Sudan plunged into civil war in April 2023 after a vicious struggle for power broke out between the military and the RSF. Since the conflict erupted, RSF fighters and allied Arab militia in Darfur have been accused of targeting people from non-Arab ethnic groups. And these are all the stories we're able to bring to you at this time all around the continent. This has been brought to you by Spectrum Television. Spotlight Africa, my name is Uyai MM. Do ensure to follow us across social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Enjoy the rest of your day. Good afternoon.